My name is Luro. I am, unfortunately, still alive, which is impressive considering the state of the war. If you had asked me 10 cycles ago, I would have said the galaxy was holding together. Not winning, not even close, but holding. Now we were counting how many systems we could afford to lose before the word galaxy became optimistic. The enemy did not negotiate. They did not threaten. They did not even communicate. They simply arrived and erased. We call them the Null Fleet. Creative, I know. When something wipes out entire star systems without so much as a greeting, you stop worrying about clever names. I was stationed aboard the Alliance command ring, orbiting a dying blue star. Beautiful in the tragic way things are right before they collapse. The kind of view that makes poets emotional and soldiers nervous. Commander Vexa stood beside me, her 4 eyes locked on the tactical display. They've taken 3 more sectors, she said. Only 3. I replied. They're slowing down. That's encouraging. She did not laugh. That was my first clue things were bad. The chamber buzzed with voices, dozens of species, all arguing in their own tones, frequencies, and emotional ranges. Some shouted. Some clicked. One delegate literally changed color every time he panicked, which at this point was constant. We cannot hold this line. We've already lost the line. We should evacuate core worlds. We should surrender. Yes, surrender. To an enemy that never speaks. Brilliant plan. I'm sure they'll appreciate the gesture right before deleting us. I leaned closer to Vexa. If anyone figures out how to surrender to something that doesn't listen, let me know. I'd love to survive this. She exhaled slowly. Focus, Luro. Right? Focus. On the end of everything. Then the doors opened. Late arrival. Always suspicious. Every head turned as a small delegation entered. Just 3 figures. 2 escorts and 1 human. Yes, them. Humans. If you've never met one, imagine a species that looks completely unremarkable and somehow manages to be the most dangerous thing in any room anyway. Not physically, not obviously, but there's always something in their eyes. Like they're already 10 steps ahead and mildly annoyed you're only on step 1. This one introduced himself as Captain Aaron Hale. Simple name, simple posture, calm, which was either confidence or madness. Possibly both. The council erupted immediately. You're late. You've been ignoring our requests for cycles. You expect to walk in now, and Hale raised one hand. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. And somehow, everyone stopped. I don't know how he did that. Humans have this strange ability to control a room without trying. It's unsettling. I understand the situation, Hale said. His voice was steady. Too steady. You're losing. A delegate slammed a limb on the console. Losing? We are beyond losing. Yes, Hale replied calmly. That. Silence followed. Then Vexa stepped forward. Your species has stayed out of this war. You refuse to commit fleets. Why are you here now? Good question. Excellent question. The kind of question that decides whether you welcome someone or throw them out an airlock. Hale didn't hesitate. You asked for help, he said. You're getting it. Murmurs spread again. A tall insectoid general clicked sharply. With what? One envoy. Hale tilted his head slightly. No. He tapped the console. A projection appeared above us. At first, I thought it was an error. A glitch. Because what I saw didn't make sense. There was no fleet. No armada. No defensive grid. Just one ship. One. I blinked. Then blinked again because sometimes that helps. It did not help. That's it, someone asked. Hale nodded. That's it. The chamber exploded. This is a joke. We are facing extinction. You bring a single vessel. I couldn't help it. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny. No, this was far past funny. This was the kind of absurd that loops back around and punches you in the face. One ship? Against the Null Fleet? Sure. Why not? Maybe it would politely ask them to stop. Hale waited, patiently, letting the outrage burn itself out. Then he spoke again. It will be enough. Confidence. That dangerous, terrifying human confidence. Vexa narrowed her eyes. Explain. Hale looked at the projection. At the single ship. It's not a warship, he said. I crossed my arms. That's comforting. We're being destroyed, and you didn't even bring a warship. He glanced at me, and for a moment, just a moment, I felt like I had said something very, very stupid. It is, Hale continued, a solution. Oh good. Even worse. The insectoid general snapped. We don't need riddles. We need firepower. You've had firepower, Hale replied. How's that working? No one answered. Because we all knew the answer. It wasn't working. At all. Hale stepped closer to the display. The Null Fleet doesn't fight like you. It doesn't think like you. You keep trying to meet it with force, and it keeps erasing you. Yes, Vexa said tightly. We are aware. Then stop doing that. Simple. Infuriatingly simple. I rub my temples. Let me guess. Your one ship is going to do something different. Yes. And that will win the war. Yes. I stared at him. You understand how that sounds, right? Yes. And you're still saying it. Yes. I sighed. I hate this already. Hale almost smiled. Almost. Then the alarm sounded. Sharp. Urgent. Terrifying. The tactical display shifted instantly. A new formation appeared. Black shapes. Endless. Silent. The Null Fleet. Right on schedule. Because of course they were. Contact in outer orbit, someone shouted. Defense lines collapsing. They're too close. Panic surged through the chamber again. Orders, counter-orders, fear spilling over into chaos. Yes, actual chaos this time. Not just the dramatic kind. I looked back at Hale. Still calm. Still steady. I don't know how he did that. Your solution, I said. I assume it's not just for display. He nodded. It's already here. The projection zoomed. There it was. The human ship. Small. Isolated. Completely outnumbered. Facing the Null Fleet alone. I leaned closer to the screen. Tell me something, I said quietly. Does your plan include surviving? Hale's eyes stayed on the battle, forming in silence. Yes, he said. Pause. For us. That was not the most comforting answer. The first shots fired. Or not shots. That's the strange part. The Null Fleet didn't fire in any way we understood. Space just folded, twisted, and where their focus landed, ships vanished. Gone. No explosion. No debris. Just erased. The human ship didn't move. Didn't dodge. Didn't run. It just stayed there. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. Why isn't it moving? I asked. Hale's voice was quiet now. Because it doesn't need to. The Null Fleet closed in. The void itself seemed to bend toward the lone human vessel. Closer. Closer. And then, the human ship responded. Not with weapons. Not with shields. With something else. Something that made the stars flicker. I swallowed. Tell me, I whispered, that this is the part where it all makes sense. Hale finally looked at me. And this time, he did smile. No, he said, it's the part where it gets worse. I remember thinking, this is it. Not in a dramatic, heroic way. No speeches. No final words. Just a quiet, very practical realization that existence, as we knew it, was about to be canceled. The stars flickered again. Not dimmed, not blocked, flickered. Like reality itself had a bad connection. Explain, Commander Vexa demanded. Hale didn't look at her. His eyes stayed fixed on the display. It's starting. Of course it is. Because things weren't strange enough already. The human ship remained still. Completely still. No visible shields. No weapons charging. No engines firing. Just there, sitting in front of the most destructive force the galaxy had ever seen, like it was waiting for a late transport. The Null Fleet advanced. And then they stopped. That had never happened before. Not once. The Null Fleet did not hesitate. Did not pause. Did not reconsider. It simply erased everything in its path. That was its only behavior. Its only identity. But now, they stopped. A ripple moved through their formation. Not movement. Not formation change. Something else. Like confusion. I leaned forward. Did we just confuse them? Hale nodded slightly. Yes. That's it, I said. That's the grand plan? Confuse the unstoppable force. Step 1, he replied. Of course there are steps. There are always steps with humans. Complicated, layered, mildly terrifying steps. The flickering intensified. The stars blinked out, then back, then out again. Not randomly. There was a pattern. A rhythm. I didn't understand it. but the Null Fleet did, because suddenly they reacted. For the first time since this war began, they moved defensively. Ships pulled back. Their formation tightened. The void distortions around them faltered. Impossible, Vexa whispered. Hale shook his head. No, just unfamiliar. I stared at the display. What did you do? Hale finally answered directly. We changed the rules. Simple. Again, with the simple. I really hate how humans do that. You can't just change the rules of reality. I snapped. Hale glanced at me. Of course you can. You just need the right tools. I opened my mouth and closed it. Fair. Annoyingly fair. The human ship pulsed. Not with light, but with absence. A moment where it seemed like it wasn't there, then it was again. And every time it pulsed, the stars flickered in sync. The Null Fleet tried to attack. The void bent. Space twisted. And then nothing happened. The attack failed. Not blocked. Not absorbed. It simply didn't connect. Like trying to strike something that wasn't where it was supposed to be. Phase shifting. I guessed. Hale shook his head. No. Dimensional offset? No. Then what? He paused, just long enough to make it worse. We're making them exist wrong. I stared at him. I'm sorry, I said slowly. What? The Null Fleet operates on fixed constants, Hale explained. Predictable interactions. Cause and effect. Location and time. We adjusted those. Adjusted? Yes. Of course. Why didn't we think of that? The display shifted again. The human ship pulsed faster now. The flickering spread. Not just stars, but space itself. Lines bent. Angles didn't match. Distance became unreliable. The Null Fleet began to collapse. Not explode. Not break apart. Collapse. Ships overlapped. Intersected. Passed through each other in ways that should not be possible. Some stretched. Some folded. Some simply ceased to make sense. I felt sick. Are we seeing this correctly? I asked. No, Hale said. Good, I muttered. That would have been concerning. The insectoid general stepped back. This is not warfare. Hale nodded. Correct. This is violation. Yes. There was no pride in his voice. No excitement. Just certainty. The Null Fleet tried to retreat. That was new too. They turned. Attempted to pull away from the human ship. But distance no longer worked properly. They moved and stayed in place. Or moved and ended up closer. Or moved and vanished entirely. They're trapped, Vexa said. Hale exhaled slowly. Yes. I crossed my arms tighter. And now? Hale looked at the display. At the broken, collapsing shapes of the enemy that had terrified the galaxy into silence. Now, he said, we finish it. The human ship pulsed one final time. And everything stopped. No flickering. No movement. No distortion. Just silence. The stars returned to normal. Space stabilized. And the Null Fleet was gone. Not retreating. Not hidden. Gone. Completely. Every trace erased. I blinked. Then blinked again. Because apparently that's my coping mechanism. It's over. I asked. Hale nodded. Yes. Just like that. No final battle. No last stand. Just done. The chamber was silent. Not the usual tense silence. Not the kind filled with fear or anticipation. This was empty. Like no one quite understood how to react. Finally, Vexa spoke. What did you do to them? Hale hesitated. For the first time, he hesitated. We removed them, he said. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. I stepped closer. Remove them where? Hale looked at me. And this time, I really wished he hadn't. Somewhere they can't come back from. I swallowed. Are they alive? Pause. Yes. That was worse. Much worse. The insectoid general spoke again, quieter now. And your ship can do this again? Hale nodded. Yes. The room shifted. Not physically, but emotionally. Fear didn't disappear. It changed direction. Because suddenly, the most dangerous thing in the galaxy was not the Null Fleet. It was the species that stopped them. I let out a slow breath. Remind me, I said, why you didn't join the war earlier? Hale's expression didn't change. Because, he said, this was always the last option. And now? He glanced at the empty space where the Null Fleet had been. Now it's used. That didn't sound reassuring. At all. Vexa straightened. The war is over. Yes, Hale said. We owe your species. No, Hale interrupted gently. You don't. She frowned. We don't. No. I tilted my head. That's new. Victors usually want something. Hale looked at me one last time, and there it was again. That look, that quiet, unsettling certainty. We didn't do this for you, he said. Silence. Cold, heavy silence. Then why? I asked. Hale turned toward the exit. Because, he said, they were next. He left. Just like that. No celebration. No demands. No explanation. I stood there, staring at the empty display, at the space where an unstoppable force had simply stopped existing. And for the first time since this war began, I wasn't afraid of the enemy anymore. I was afraid of the answer. My name is Luro. I am still alive. And now, I finally understand why that might be a temporary condition. And that day, the galaxy learned something. Humans don't just save wars, they end them.